today could be quite a big day in the world of Formula One.
So, whilst they're off to close a chapter and go to their final day of school for the year, perhaps a new chapter is opening for Sergio Perez. So last night, a story broke on the internet about Sergio Perez signing a deal to drive alongside Max Verstappen at Red Bull Racing in 2021. Now, quite often these things do break because internet publications or social channels often just chance their arm to try and break a story ahead of it officially breaking, because it's a great way to gain you loads of traction online. Of course, if you get it wrong, it can also destroy any credibility you may well have had, and people won't return to your website again. But what's significant about this one is that the publication that broke the story, Speed Week, well, they're owned by Red Bull. So it might make sense for Red Bull to release the story to Speed Week a little bit earlier to gain some traction, to drive traffic to the Red Bull owned website, giving the correct details, perhaps before Red Bull themselves officially break the story today, maybe. It's also entirely possible that we could get some Mercedes news, perhaps today, or if not today, in the coming days. But whilst that's all kind of speculation right now until it's officially announced, there is one bit of news that was official yesterday. Williams announcing Jost Capito as their new CEO. Which personally, I think is a brilliant move, and I'm really pleased to see Jost back in Formula One. Jost Capito has had an amazing career in motorsport and in the world of automotive in general, and you might remember he did a brief spell at McLaren, and I can tell you those people who worked with him at McLaren thought incredibly highly of him. He was incredibly well respected, and I think was a really breath of fresh air, both to Formula One but also to the McLaren organisation. But he didn't fit the post-Ron Dennis management structure at the team and therefore didn't last very long. But the potential that Jost offered in coming in with a fresh perspective, a fresh set of eyes on the challenges that Formula One throw up, I thought was huge. And so now Williams can tap into that potential. And it's a really strong move for them.
Still no official word yet, but in the meantime, I've got an interview in a moment via Zoom with the Times newspaper, because they're doing an article next weekend on the life of those behind the scenes in Formula One. So I'm talking obviously about the life of a Formula One mechanic, which should be interesting, but I wonder if they might start to switch the focus towards some driver announcements should they turn up in the next few minutes. Hey, yeah, all good, thanks. How are you? See you later. Bye-bye. Bye. Well, that was really interesting. That was fascinating stuff, talking about everything behind the scenes that happens in a Formula One garage, which I thought was great. I'm happy, very happy to do that, because that's an area that I'm passionate about, shining a light on the people that really make Formula One happen, the people behind the scenes that rarely ever get put into the spotlight. So to talk about all of those different roles, I thought was really interesting. So you'll be able to read that in the Times, I think, on Boxing Day. But obviously keep an eye on my socials, and once it is out and about, I'll share it. Right, have we got any announcements yet? Anything happened in the world of Formula One whilst I was on the phone? No. Oh, yes. Okay, so no Red Bull announcement just yet, but a Mercedes announcement in that, well, that's quite interesting. So, Ineos, which is a sponsor, of course, at Mercedes right now, have taken an equal third share in the team, alongside Mercedes themselves and Toto Wolff, now Ineos too. That's slightly controversial in that they're not the most sustainable organisation, let's put it that way. And I always wondered whether that might be a sticking point for Lewis Hamilton signing a contract, that this company that's got their name on the car, potentially even getting bigger now, which seemingly goes against almost everything Lewis is standing for in terms of a sustainable, greener future. Anyway, that's interesting. Also says here in the press release that Toto Wolff is staying on at Mercedes for at least 3 more years, which I guess means that we're probably going to get a Lewis Hamilton announcement very soon as well.
You know, the more I speculate about that Mercedes news, the more it kind of makes sense. If Lewis Hamilton was struggling to sign a deal at Mercedes to extend his contract because the company that were potentially going to take a controlling stake in the organisation had such misaligned beliefs and values to his own that he couldn't bring himself to do it, well, maybe by sharing the organisation, the Mercedes F1 team, equally three ways between Mercedes, Toto and Ineos, that gives his partner in success, the guy that undoubtedly has very similar and aligned beliefs to Lewis Hamilton, Toto Wolff, a controlling stake in the team that maybe protects its values for the future of Lewis Hamilton's term there. I think we might get a Lewis Hamilton announcement very quickly. Right, what rubbish weather. I've now got to rush home because I've got a Zoom meeting around the Seed Stream app, and hopefully we might have some more driver news to talk about.
Right, that was the fastest shower in the world. It's now 1 minute to midday, which means it's time for my meeting, and then in 1 hour from now, I've got to be somewhere else for another completely different lunch meeting. It's going like clockwork. Right, meeting's done, kids collected from school for the last time in 2020, and the dogs have been walked. It's now pitch black outside, but Red Bull Racing have officially announced the news. Sergio Perez will race for Red Bull Racing alongside Max Verstappen in 2021. I'd love to know, of course, your thoughts on all of that. Alex Albon, as a result of this news, takes a step back. He remains with the team, so his Formula One career is not necessarily over, but it's a big blow to him. He will take up the role of test, development, reserve driver throughout 2021 and still will remain within that Red Bull family. But look, I'd love to know your thoughts on that and all of the news, of course, that's happened so far today. My thoughts are these. Red Bull Racing are a team with title-winning aspirations. They are a team that want to be winning races and challenging for world titles. They are as fans, our best hope at overturning this long-term dominance of Mercedes on Formula One that so many people have become frustrated and bored with when we watch the sport. Our best hope is Red Bull Racing getting in amongst that. But they can't do that with only one driver fighting at the front in Max Verstappen. They need to be fighting on all fronts. They need a two-pronged attack like Mercedes consistently have with their two drivers. And for whatever reason, and I'm sure there are a number of reasons behind this, Alex Albon has been unable to do that on a consistent enough basis throughout what's actually been a relatively decent period of time. Red Bull have given him a reasonable amount of patience, a reasonable amount of support. You can't say he hasn't been given a chance. Now, I feel incredibly sorry for Alex because I know what a talented driver he is. I've seen what he's been able to do in the junior categories. He is no doubt talented enough to be in Formula One. But for a variety of reasons, he hasn't been able to deliver consistently enough in that Red Bull Racing car. Now, you may be able to point fingers towards the car and say, well, it's too twitchy, it's too on the edge, it's too nervous, it's not consistent enough as a car. But look, that's the car they've got. That's a car that Adrian Newey and his team have designed with a view to maximising its performance. And yeah, maybe that means it needs a certain driving style to get the best out of it. Max is clearly able to do that. I would suspect that Alex Albon has struggled to get to grips with that. But on top of that, and something that's been a consistent problem at Red Bull Racing, is the environment for young drivers coming into that team. The pressure, the environment around them is not conducive to getting the best of their human performance, let alone what they can do in the car. And we've seen a number of great drivers fall by the wayside as a result of all of that. Red Bull certainly need to start looking at themselves as much as they do the drivers that they keep dropping for reasons why the performance is not there. But having said all of that, Red Bull Racing need results now. They can't afford to wait years until they can design and construct a new culture within the organisation that might overcome some of those issues. So how do they do that? Well, if their own Red Bull Racing or Red Bull Young Driver program doesn't have somebody with experience and talent enough to step up and take that seat with enough confidence that they will be able to overcome the troubles that many other young drivers have suffered with, will you take perhaps the next best available guy, even if he's not currently in the Red Bull family? And that guy is Sergio Perez. He has finished 2020 in an incredibly strong fashion. He's been fighting for his Formula One career, as has Alex Albon, and yet only one of those two guys have really stepped up and delivered something really mightily impressive when the pressure was really on. Sergio deserves this drive. And the other reason behind all this is that he's no longer a young driver who's fighting for his career in terms of trying to build a career right at the beginning of it, which all the other young drivers coming through the programme are desperately trying to do. They're all looking over their shoulder at the next young kid in line, in the Red Bull line, that might be there willing to take their seat away at the drop of a hat. Sergio Perez doesn't have to deal with any of that. He's experienced, he's been through the mill in Formula One, he has a huge amount of years of experience that will get him through all of those things. Of course, he has to adapt to that Red Bull car, but experience helps you do that. And the pressure, the environment of that Red Bull Racing garage and team, I don't think it's going to affect him in anything like the same way it's affected a lot of these younger drivers. So for me, much as it's tough on Alex Albon, it's a great move for the team. I'm excited to see what happens. I would love, of course, to know what you think on that and everything else we've touched on today, because it's quite a busy day in the world of Formula One, and I still feel like there is more news to come. Certainly in that Mercedes driver lineup confirmation, which we would fully expect to be Lewis Hamilton very, very soon. But I think it's been a good day. I'd love to know your thoughts. Have a good weekend, guys. See you soon. Ta-da.